Hey guys, it's Live Spectrum here, and I'm here for another awesome video. So basically, about a year ago, probably a little bit over a year ago, I did a video on what you should know before you get a hedgehog. So today, I want to kind of touch back on that and make a part 2. Because in that one, I didn't talk about some of the different things that come with having a hedgehog that you learn as you kind of go along. So basically, I had on my other video, I had some people say, you should show us your hedgehog, and they asked a few questions that I have written down, and I wanted to talk about the questions they asked on a formal video so that you guys, if you don't know them or don't know the questions or want to know the answer, here it is documented. So basically, before I get started, I want to tell you about the first video, which is on my channel, but I'll leave it below in the description so that you can watch it. And there are a lot of questions that I answered on there that I won't talk about on here. So if you're about to get a hedgehog and you happen to run across this video, it'll be beneficial to you to go ahead and run over that part and watch it and then come back, or watch this and go back, because they're just going to be all over the place. Also, before I get started, I want to go ahead and tell you guys that if you have any more questions about hedgehogs, just leave them all below, and then I can talk about them in a third part, maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. So yay! Woo! Okay, so the first question, and the question I get asked the most, I think I've been asked 2 or 3 times, is which one should I get? A boy or a girl? What are the pros and cons of having a boy? What are the pros and cons of having a girl? This and that and the other. So, from what I know, there's not very many pros and cons. I think they all just have their own personalities. Hedgehogs do their own little thing, no matter what. So, there really aren't any pros and cons, other than maybe just basic differences with everything. I mean, if you meet a girl and a boy who are brother and sister, you're going to realize they're not the same person, they don't act the same, versus if you meet 2 brothers, they're definitely not going to be the same, because they're different people. So, I think it's the same with a hedgehog. There's not much difference between a girl and a boy. I think the scariest thing that I've seen on this hedgehog group I'm part of on Facebook is that a lot of people buy girl hedgehogs, and come to find out, their hedgehog was pregnant because the person they bought from was not a good breeder, or was not a real breeder. They were just having hedgehogs just to sell, and they didn't know what they were doing. So be careful when you buy a hedgehog. Make sure, if it's one like I got, who I rescued, basically make sure they're housed by themselves. Things happen. Hedgehogs, like every other animal, like a rabbit or anything, they don't care if they're brother and sister. It just happens. So be careful if you're getting a female. Make sure it's a female that hasn't been housed with any other hedgehogs. If they have, make sure you monitor the hedgehog for the first maybe month or 2. Just closely monitor that hedgehog for maybe a month to make sure nothing's wrong or whatever. My idea was that I was going to get a hedgehog. She wasn't housed with any other hedgehogs, so that wasn't a big deal. So I didn't ever have that issue, but I've seen it happen on the Facebook page where people buy them from somebody who are selling it, and pregnant, and they don't realize it until my hedgehog had babies. What do I do? So that's kind of a scary situation. But it can happen, so be careful. That's the only thing I would say. Also, when it comes to that kind of stuff, you should just know your breeder. For me, my hedgehog did not come from a breeder. It came from a man who bought her from somebody, and he ended up getting cancer, and he couldn't really take care of her anymore, and he just needed somebody that would be able to take care of her, and it comes to me, somebody who can. So just know your breeder. Know what you're getting yourself into with hedgehogs, because it can be a nightmare. So just know who you're talking to and know who you're interacting with. And keep open communications. I don't know how many times I've seen on that Facebook page where people buy a hedgehog and then the breeder demands the hedgehog back. And I always comment on them and say, no, that's your pet. You don't have to take it back to them. Now, of course, if the breeder happens to see you abusing the hedgehog, that's a whole nother story. But just be careful when buying from people and also interacting with that breeder later on. Because sometimes they think you don't know. They think you're stupid and you're just somebody who wants an exotic pet and you don't know what to do. So just be careful who you're coming in contact with. Also, if you see a hedgehog at a pet store in bad conditions, be careful, because that's another thing. Some pet stores are licensed. I'm not sure how it goes with that, if pet stores can sell them. Second thing I would like to make a point of, knowing your breeder. Is this breeder somebody who's certified, who knows immense amount of information about hedgehogs and all kinds of different things? Is this just somebody who you just found off Craigslist and is like, hey, I got a hedgehog who was pregnant and I don't want these babies, or whatever. So, you know, you just need to find out what you're looking for. Knowing that, also, the more the person you buy from knows, probably the more expensive it'll be. Also, knowing the price range of a hedgehog. Hedgehog babies can sell for $150 just for the hedgehog. Just for the hedgehog. That's not food, that's not cages, that's not anything. So, just be careful and know your price range for a hedgehog as well. Also know the kind of food they need. It's just kind of basic stuff sometimes, but some people don't know. I've been in pet stores and some people think, oh, just go buy a hedgehog from a pet store. And I think it depends on the state, but I don't think many pet stores can sell them. I don't know. I've never looked that stuff up. But, I mean, I went to a pet store one day and saw a hedgehog, and that was not housed correctly. In my town, my hometown, that hedgehog was not housed correctly. So, just know that just because it's a pet store, they're not necessarily always right. So, I did go into a pet store one time when I first got Ava, and I was going to buy a light bulb for her, a heat lamp bulb, so she could stay warm, and they did not know the protocols for anything. Even though a month ago they had a hedgehog in their store. This was like right when I first got Ava a year ago, so this is over and done with. But the thing is, they didn't even know that a hedgehog needed a heat lamp. And it was, I don't know. I always think, like, and I used to think like this, like, oh, it's a pet store, they're supposed to know. Well, not technically. So, just, you know, I went into another like market, a chain pet store that was like around the US, and I mentioned what I was on the hunt for was a bulb that would heat her cage so that she'd stay warm during the winter. And I went to my local pet store, which ended up not knowing, and then I also went to this big name pet store that you would probably know if I named them off. And they didn't know hedgehog protocol either, but they don't usually sell hedgehogs, so that's, you know. But you think that the store that had hedgehogs a couple months back would know, but they didn't, so don't necessarily believe everything you hear from a pet store. So do your research. Join a support group on Facebook or somewhere that, you know, where there are people who know. Don't just be like, oh, well, it's a pet store, they should know. You know, then you're kind of SOL. So just be careful who you talk to, who you buy from, because you never know what you're going to get. There's also a difference between somebody who professionally breeds hedgehogs for that reason, so that they can spread the awareness of hedgehogs and provide a healthy pet to you. And there's a big difference between that person and somebody who just bought a hedgehog that was accidentally pregnant and knows jack diddly about it. So just be careful who you interact with, once again, who you're buying from. Because there are some people out there who buy hedgehogs and make them procreate, and then they're just trying to make a quick buck off of it. So just be careful what you buy, who you buy. Make sure you know your person you're buying from. Now, know the price range of a hedgehog. If you buy from a really good person, the hedgehog, do not be shocked if you find a hedgehog that's $150 for just the hedgehog. I think I mentioned that earlier. My hedgehog was $150, but it came with her wheel, her cage, some of the bedding that they use with her, treat, toys, stuff like that. So, and I've definitely spent more than $150 on her, getting her some more toys, buying her another bag of food, which in 1 year I only needed one bag of food, which I will show you in a minute. And I bought her some more toys. I bought her stuff to wash her in, stuff like that, treats, stuff like that. Just, you're going to spend some money on a hedgehog, so just know what you're getting into before you go there. That's the only thing I can say. If you're not willing to spend $20 every couple months on a hedgehog, then you're probably not ready for the responsibility. I saw somebody on my YouTube video from the last one said that they have been saving up money to get a hedgehog, which is good because there's always going to be something crazy going on, so be careful. You never know. Also, bedding. The hedgehog that I got came with like this paper bedding and some of that like wood chippy bedding kind of stuff. I don't know how to explain it. I don't use that stuff now. When I first got my hedgehog, I did use that. But I feel like with that kind of bedding, it stunk faster. I feel like it smelled after a couple of days of her using it. And it's not that I have issues with that, but, I mean, she is in my room, so that's going to play a role in how I live and my quality of life. So I ended up switching her to fleece, which is the blankets you can make, the fleece blankets, or the ones you can just buy from cheap at Walmart. And I cut them to the sides of her bed, her cage, and you can use those over and over again. So, know the type of bedding you want. There's certain beddings that are harmful to hedgehogs, so just know the kind of bedding that you want to use, what kind of price you want to pay, because with the fleece bedding, it's a one-time buy. You buy it and you can use it 1,000,000 times. I haven't had to throw any of the fleece away yet. If you want to, you can, but I mean, you're wasting money, I feel. So I do rewash it and stuff like that. So I've been using that bedding for over a year now. Probably more like a year and a half. And it's still good. So, and I still got a whole bunch more fleece. I just haven't had time to make more bedding for her. And I've made like 5 or 6 individual ones and just keep swapping them out when I clean her cage. And she lasts about 2 weeks on it, honestly. I don't necessarily have to clean her, except I clean her about every 2 weeks or so. And, you know, it doesn't smell as bad as the bedding. That bedding so stunk. I mean, it was bad. So, it's just what you want to do. Which also comes to the point I make, where is your hedgehog going to stay? Is it going to stay in your room? Is it going to stay in a room in your house, like the living room? Is it going to stay in a pet room? Like, do you have a room for your pets? I don't know. Is it going to live in your bathroom? I don't know. Some people might do that. But that's another reason making all these other decisions bounces off of where it's going to stay. So that's just something you need to know. Also, they're nocturnal, so they like to run and scratch and play and eat and all that stuff at night. So if you're a light sleeper and that bugs you, you might need to either think about getting an animal that's active during the day or moving the hedgehog to another room. So just think of this stuff before you buy the hedgehog because, you know, it can be kind of annoying. Also realize that every hedgehog is going to be different. You might own a hedgehog now and she or he might pass away and you might buy another one and it may be a whole nother thing. It's like children. They are definitely like children. Everything is going to be different. You know, mine's really grumpy and she likes to be left alone a lot. Some other people might have one that likes to play a lot. I mean, it just depends. Every hedgehog has a personality, and all of that is shaped when they're first born and when they're handled or not handled. And so, it all just depends. You know, some of the grumpiest hedgehogs can be turned into the most loving, and, you know, so you just have to realize that. Also, my last point is other pets. You know, because other pets like to play with each other. My dog, Moose, really loves Ava. She'd love to take a bite of Ava. I don't think she would hurt Ava because Ava would, you know, bounce at her. But you gotta be careful when you have animals, cats, dogs. Some animals are more prone to being more aggressive with stuff like that, and some are not. Some are just really loving animals. So knowing your animal as well, and that just because you have a dog that doesn't like hedgehogs doesn't mean you can't have a hedgehog. Maybe put the hedgehog out of sight. Maybe leave it in your room like I do. Don't have Ava out when Moose is out. Which Moose is okay with Ava out. I've had her out, but I've never let her down on the floor or, you know, because, especially when Moose is out, because Moose is one of those dogs that can't just leave it alone. She's got to go see it. So, that's another thing I would say, to just know the kind of animal you got and the interaction with other animals that may cause harm or be okay. So, I wanted to show you some small things really quickly. Food, I wanted to show you the bag of food I've got for her. Some of the toys I've got for her. I also want to show you her wheel, her clippers, and her bath wash. So just give me a second and I'll go get that. Okay, so this is the cat food that she uses. It's probably going to be kind of hard for you to tell, but it says Precise Naturals Grain-Free Feline Chicken Meal Formula, and this is the kind I use. It has no grains, no potatoes, and it is just a really good protein-rich formula, which is what hedgehogs need, a protein-rich formula. It's cat food. So, there's a big list of different cat foods you can use, but this is the one I use because this is the one they mentioned on the actual group that I'm a part of. So, this big bag cost me like $14 or so, and it lasts me about a year. So, there you go. You can choose any brand you want that they recommend, which I can also like maybe do another video on saying some of the other brands they name off, but this is the one I trust because it's the one I had when I got her. So, and the first bag I had lasted a year, so they'll last me about a year because I give her a scoopful with a spoon, and that usually kind of tides her off for the day. So, you know, and it's also made in the USA, so that's cool. Okay, so some other things I have are these little tiny clippers that were actually our fingernail clippers when we were babies, my sister and I. My dad let me use them to have for Ava because her little fingers, her little toes are so tiny. So you need a little pair of toenail clippers or some kind of fingernail clipper or something for your hedgehog because their nails do get kind of long and it can hurt them, break a toe, this and that and the other. So just make sure you have some kind of nail clipper. So that's another one. So you can get baby clippers too. So, you know, you don't have to necessarily get a pet clipper. Also, Aveeno Skin Relief Body Wash, fragrance free, guys, fragrance free, so that they don't have a conniption about that. Also, this is just Aveeno. It's a big bottle, and I've had this one a year, and it's nowhere near empty. Like, it's still probably up here at the top, and I give her a bath just about every time I clean her cage, so it's every about 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so, and it's lasts me well over a year. I just went ahead and bought it in the big one, but you can buy it in small ones too. Also, if you're going to use the route where you also like have the fleece, you have to get a special kind of wash to do that in, but that's just a fragrance-free wash as well, so that they don't have issues with the smell and all that. I'm going to show you now what I use, what kind of wheel, because I did mention that in the last one. Wheels about like that Ava uses and the kind that came with. It's a wire wheel. It's one of those with all the small holes in it, and that's good for Tenrecs, but it's not good for hedgehogs. So, and I have a hedgehog, not a Tenrec, so I'll show you the kind of wheel I'm talking about. It's just this, this barrel wheel kind of thing here going on, so that it's just easy for them to walk on, and you can even get smoother ones that make it easier for them to run on. So that's just the best way. Also, a little tube for them to hide in. I don't think my girl's not in her tube. She's actually under her thing. I don't know if I'm gonna take her out quite yet because she's still kind of sleeping, and right now I'm just kind of trying to learn this new camera. So I probably will take her out, and maybe if I do another video, I don't know. But that's just some basic stuff you need to get you started with a hedgehog. If there are any more questions about owning a hedgehog or things you might want to know about owning a hedgehog, just leave them below. And also I'll leave a link to the previous video just in case you didn't get to see it. And you can leave comments on either video and I might make another one, but I most likely will just reply to you then and there, and if I think it's a pretty good question, I'll include it in the next one. So thank you guys so much for watching the channel, and check out all my other videos. It's not always hedgehog related, but maybe I'll do some more hedgehog stuff. Who knows? Well, thank you guys. All my social media is below. You can find me there, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!